Are you ready to create a life you crave? Let's spin that doom loop of negativity into an upward success cycle and start living lucky. Good morning. I'm Jana.
I'm Jason.
And we are living lucky.
You are too.
We're talking about perspective.
Oh, perspective.
We have talked about this before.
It's so important.
But it hit home. We were watching a video and it was a woman that was talking about it's my options class. Everyone knows I'm trying to learn how to trade in the stock market. And she was explaining it in just a slightly different way. She was using just slightly different language. She was talking about the options holder and the options writer. And I'm like, what is she talking about?
Oh, get a new textbook.
Because I have been learning it as the options buyer and the options seller, which is completely different. So in my mind, now I had to think about it differently.
Yeah, well, she came at it from a whole new angle.
A whole new perspective.
Yes.
And then I started thinking, wow, in life, we do this because within 10 minutes, Jason said, oh my gosh, the sink. Look at this. There's
there's dishes in it. It's full of dishes.
There's dishes and there's some gunk. And I'm like, are you kidding? I just unloaded the dishwasher. However, from my perspective, because I use a wheelchair and I'm sitting down.
If it's 3 inches below the top of the sink, you're not going to see it.
I can't see inside the sink, which is why I don't put dirty dishes in the sink.
I know. You're good. You're really good about taking it, just cleaning the dish off and putting it right in the dishwasher.
So
Somebody else in the house isn't.
Yes, some stranger must have come in and put their dirty dishes in the sink.
Who does that?
And along those lines, sometimes I look at the counter and say, oh my goodness, we need to wipe the counters.
Got crumbs and dust.
And Mr. Jason, from his 6'2" perspective, says,
I don't see it. What are you talking about?
The counters look perfect. They look spotless.
They look great.
I could do the white glove test.
Yeah. Thank goodness I don't. Because when I bend down and look at it from your angle and the light hits it, I can see every little thing.
Yes, and I say, honey, come down here. So that's just a small example of how when we change perspective,
just change that
life
angle a
changes.
little bit.
In fact, there was a movie back in, I think it was
1972.
No. Don't date me like that. I think it was maybe in the early 2000s, but it was the movie Crash. I think it won. I think it won the Academy. It won the Academy Award that year, and it was literally an event that happened, and you could see all of the.
You experienced through all the different people that were involved.
No. It was called Vantage Point.
Okay.
Or maybe both of them had the same.
I think there's a couple movies out there where you go back and you're watching literally the same scene over and over and over again, and it's through the eyes of the different people involved.
Yes, and it's
crazy, right?
They all saw a different thing.
Well, this happens.
A lot of mysteries are like that. You see it from the neighbor's perspective. Then you see it from the person who actually got murdered. And then you see it from the person who was murdering.
Well, even just going to a concert. Like when we go to a concert or a movie, we can sit through the same movie with 150 people or a concert with thousands of people, and different people from just different seats within the concert have totally different experiences. Sometimes we'll have great seats, or sometimes we might be sitting behind a pillar.
No, I always sit behind a bar. And I'm not talking about a bar like bring me a beer. I'm not talking about that.
Railing.
I'm talking about a railing. It feels like there's always a railing right
in your line of vision.
In my line of vision.
So you're always trying to lift up or duck down through the concert.
Yeah, so I always have to lean over and duck underneath a railing.
Like I'm watching it through the prison bars.
Yes, and then by the time the 3 hours are over, my neck hurts and my back hurts, and I'm like, just get me out of here. And I'm usually in a bad mood, which is the opposite of what a concert is supposed to do.
And I'm like, yeah, what a great concert.
Yeah, Jason's like, this was great. Do you remember when we went to see Mercy Me?
Yes.
And
I can only imagine.
Oh, stop. Oh, that was great. That was funny. I was in poopy pants mood because it felt like everything.
It was not very accessible. Like even the accessible seats weren't very
Right.
accessible.
And I was not using my living lucky skills at that time.
Yeah, this was
I was not living
This was pre-awareness.
the mindset and the philosophy that I have now adapted. And I literally left in such a bad mood. I got in the car and I said, I don't think I will ever go to a concert again. That was a terrible experience for me. However, I have overcome that tragic experience.
And that was just from a perspective
It was.
that had built in a narrative of the world and a narrative of the situation.
No, I literally sat down and the person next to me says, oh, I get it. You guys buy these seats too. Aren't they great? And then they weren't even disabled.
Yeah.
They just bought the disabled seats so that they could
Could sit where we were sitting. And it's so hard for us to even get those seats sometimes because they seem to sell out quickly.
oh, and then it just was like
And they
one
were
thing after another. I wanted an actual chair because sometimes after sitting there for a long time, I get uncomfortable. Listen to me. I'm complaining. Stop.
You're reliving the
I
moment.
am. I'm sucking myself right back there. Ah! At any rate, we're talking about this because how many times in life, for Jason, that was an awesome concert. And how many times in life do we experience something and then we attach our own emotions, our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own stories to things, to people, to objects, to money, to abundance, to God. We attach our own perspective, and it's not the truth. It's not the whole truth. It's a limited little eyeball. That's what we're seeing life through.
Yeah, it's our own paradigm that we're creating.
It really is. It's our own little expectation sometimes.
Yes. And when you set that expectation for yourself, that's what you're going to accept and look for and find.
That's what and that's what you experience.
Yes. Because you're not looking for anything else.
And it's all because sometimes we see life through these little glasses. And when we have an experience and we attach our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own stories to them, then when we have a similar experience that reminds us of anything that we've had in the past, then it's like a chain. We just continue to bring in the old into that new experience. And then do you see what happens to our future experiences? It's almost like our ego starts saying, you know what? Well, I already know how that future experience is going to turn out. So we start manifesting what our future is going to be. And then what happens is our soul starts to die because it starts to think, well, you know what? We already know how this is going to turn out. So why even try?
I know how the story goes.
It's learned helplessness.
Yeah, it's continuing to paint the lens of how you see.
Yes.
And when you do that, it's narrowing the scope of possibilities.
Yes.
So when we can accept and open ourselves up to other perspectives and other possibilities and start kind of feeling into other viewpoints.
Yes.
Then we get to broaden our scope of possibilities.
Hello.
And then get this new awareness of the availability of everything within ourselves and within the world, which is just incredible. And that's what we live in. Then we get to start choosing how we feel, how we see things, we get to start being very choosy in the experiences and the creations that we are experiencing in the world.
And it really is a choice. So the first step in all of this is being aware that we are seeing life through our limited perspective. And our limited perspective is how we've been conditioned to see the world. Let me repeat that. We have been conditioned. We've been conditioned. Oh, I don't admit it. I don't want to admit it, but it is true.
Well, sometimes we've been conditioned and we condition ourselves.
And we've been programmed. I mean, let's just face it. We've been programmed, and in some ways we've been programmed in some miraculous ways. And then there's some ways where our programming needs a little updating.
Yes, reprogramming. Like wipe the system clean and let's start fresh.
And let's just think about this from a very practical standpoint. Would you want to be using an Apple IIe computer?
No.
In 2024?
It just seems like it would be difficult.
Would you want to be using dial-up internet or a modem? A modem? Would you want to have to be plugging into a modem every time you wanted to do anything? I mean, there's a time where we just need to refresh, reboot, and we need to update our technology. And it's the same way with our beliefs.
Yeah. And the way we just are, the way we see things, because that's our beliefs kind of dictate the way we're going to see things.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there's
agreeing
a time
100%.
when we need to take off those glasses that we're seeing the world through, which is our perspective. That's what I'm talking about. And we need to wipe them off and say, okay, you know what? It might be time for me to start fresh.
That's why I love it when you ask me the question, because sometimes, I mean, I get caught up in this sometimes, and you say, hey, is that true? Is it always true? Or is that something you've subscribed to? Like, is that something you've just kind of adapted and said, in the past, this has happened, and now you're just subscribing to it in case? Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's not always true. So I don't have to subscribe to it. I can just open up and experience what might happen now. And it could be wonderful and great. And that's where all the time we're talking about things don't always work out the way we plan it. But when we are open and we have that new, just amazing perspective of what the possibilities are, it can be so much better.
I also want to bring up another point. It really comes down to being able to almost jump outside of our own bodies and put ourselves into other people's. It's like taking our awareness and putting it behind other people's eyes and saying, where are they coming from? You know, I used a word this week. I used the word voyeur.
Oh.
I know, it sounds crazy. I was texting my dad and I said,
such a voyeur, Dad.
I did. I said, Dad, I joined a group on Reddit so that I could be a voyeur and listen to what everyone was chatting about. And he said, voyeur?
Is that an X-rated thing?
Yeah, he goes, my dad is a very Midwestern farmer. And my dad texted back and he said, I had to look up what that word means because I wasn't familiar.
I don't think I like it.
And he goes, that wasn't in my vocabulary. So he looked it up, and then I doubted myself. So I said, oh, I better look it up to make sure that, well, I looked it up and it has a very sexual connotation. Yeah. I'm like, oh, great. And I just texted my dad that
like, I'm not peeking in windows, Dad. Yeah. I'm not sitting in the corner of the room while people are doing it.
So anyway, so then I texted my dad back and I was like, I didn't mean it in a sexual way. I meant it. I just wanted to be a fly on the wall so that I could understand their perspective.
Yeah, that's like me going into some of the masterminds that I join. I don't even think like these people, and that's why I join them, because I want to hear the language that they're saying.
Yes.
I want to understand their perspective,
their arguments,
because like it's opening up a new world to me.
Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Why do they think the way they do? And
how are they experiencing
because
life
nothing
the way
is
they are?
wrong. It's not wrong. It's just different. You know, when I was in college, I think I've told this story before, but when I was in college, I went over to Australia with my basketball team. And our coach actually drove the bus, and the bus had the steering wheel on the right side of the bus. And so we were driving on the opposite side. And we got into a small little fender bender. It wasn't anything major, but anyway, we got into a fender bender. And when I came home, I was telling the story. Yeah, we went to Australia. We were driving on the wrong side of the road and we got into a car accident. And someone corrected me and said, it's not the wrong side of the road. It's just different.
It's a different side of the road for you.
It's
the right side.
It's different for
it's
you.
It's the correct side of the road for them.
It's different for
and
you.
Our correct side of the road is a different side of the road. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is so true.
Yeah.
Why did I call it the wrong side of the road? Well, because I had been conditioned that we drive on the right side here in America.
And everybody else is wrong.
And everyone...
Damn it, we do things the right way here in America. Which is not, like... No one is right. Like, people aren't right or wrong. They do the things they do because of the paradigm that they're living in and the way they view the world,
way they've been taught,
the way they taught, and for the outcomes that they want. And whether they're a narcissist, whether they have altruistic or viewpoints, they're doing things because of their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions. It's
the same way, you know, we had a foreign exchange student, and the first one that came to visit or live with us for a year, she was an atheist. And I remember thinking, you know, she doesn't believe in anything. And that for me, you know, I look up in the stars and the sky and I'm just in awe and wonderment, and I just see miracles everywhere. Mm-hmm. So for me, that is just foreign, right?
Yep.
And I'm going through this spiritual awakening. And so we butted heads a lot, especially within the first couple months. We butted heads. And I realized quickly that was how she had been taught.
Yeah.
That was her conditioning. That was her programming. That's not what she is going to experience in her life. That's not a set in stone. It's just what she had been taught.
The lens that she had on at the time.
Yes. And maybe she had been brought into our lives to either teach us something, or maybe I had been brought into her life to teach her something. Like, that's how the world works.
Yeah, and for me, a belief is literally just my current level of understanding something.
Yes.
And if I'm open to understanding that my current belief system is nothing more than my current, my right now understanding of the world as I've seen it and as I've been programmed and conditioned and the experiences that I've had, then I can adjust and enhance my belief system to be more optimal moving forward. But I can't close it down and say, nope, everything I have is set in stone. Like, that's like, this is the way it is.
Yes.
Because then I shut down my growth a lot.
Yes. And we started with the video of the investment strategies and the options. And it started where she was talking about the same thing. She was just using a slightly different language, different vernacular, different vocab. Sometimes that is the distinction. Sometimes we're all talking about the same thing,
just using different words. And then we tell someone, no, you're wrong, because you're using the wrong word.
Because we're looking for what's different instead of looking for how we're all alike.
Oh, wow.
I think we should end there. What do you think?
Yeah, just keep living lucky.
All Have a great day. Bye-bye. If the idea of living lucky appeals to you, visit us at startlivinglucky.com.